The stars stretched endlessly before the Unity's dawn as it glided through the darkness of space. Captain Wu Park stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the massive station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It was a city floating in the void, with towers that sparkled like diamonds and docking bays that could hold 1,000 ships. This was humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Council. After 200 years of searching the stars alone, humans had finally found others. Wu felt his heart beating faster. This moment would change everything. The communication officer turned to him. "Captain, we're receiving their welcome message." The screen flickered and showed a room filled with creatures that seemed impossible. There were beings made of living crystal that hummed with inner light. There were insect-like aliens with multiple arms and eyes that glowed green. There were floating creatures that looked like clouds with faces. Wu had studied the files, but seeing them in person was different. "Welcome, humans of Earth," one of the crystal beings said. Its voice sounded like music. "We are the Galactic Council. We have waited long to meet you." Behind Wu, Ambassador stepped forward. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. "Thank you for welcoming us," she said. "We come in peace and friendship. We hope to learn from you and share what we know." The aliens seemed pleased. Over the next few days, the meetings continued. The council showed humans their technology, their art, their history. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, keeping peace between hundreds of different species. They had laws and courts and systems that worked. They said humanity could join them, become part of something greater. Gave speeches about cooperation. She talked about Earth's music and poetry. She showed them human paintings and sculptures. The aliens were fascinated. They asked endless questions about how humans thought and created. They seemed to genuinely like humanity. Then came the offer. The council said humans could establish colonies on worlds within their space. They would provide protection and share technology. They would help humanity grow and spread across the stars. All they asked was that humans follow galactic law and respect the boundaries set by the council. Earth's government debated for weeks. Some people were suspicious. They asked why aliens would be so generous, but most people were excited. The chance to have friends among the stars, to have allies and teachers, was too good to refuse. Humanity voted yes. Within a year, the colony ships launched. Hundreds of thousands of people volunteered to be the first to live on alien worlds. They brought their families, their hopes, their dreams of a better future. Ho Li was one of them. He was a botanist who had always dreamed of studying plants on other worlds. When he heard about a planet covered in forests with purple leaves and flowers that glowed at night, he knew he had to go. His wife and 2 young sons came with him. They arrived to find a beautiful world with clean air and rich soil. The aliens who already lived there were friendly. They helped humans build their settlements and taught them which plants were safe to eat. Wu went to Titan's Hope, a rocky world filled with valuable minerals. He was an engineer who loved solving problems. The mining station needed people who could maintain the equipment and design new tools. Wu worked alongside aliens who had been mining for centuries. They showed him techniques humans had never thought of. He felt like he was part of something important. Min Yang chose New Harvest, an agricultural world with endless fields and 3 suns that made crops grow faster. She was a teacher who wanted to help human children learn in this new environment. She set up schools where human and alien children studied together. She watched them play and laugh, making friends across species. It made her believe in a better future. 2 years passed. The colonies thrived. More ships arrived with more people. Humans sent messages back to Earth about their wonderful new lives. The council praised humanity's hard work and creativity. They said humans were a valuable addition to galactic society. But something was happening in the shadows. In private meetings, council members talked about the human problem. They watched humans innovate and improve everything they touched. They saw how quickly humans learned and adapted. Some aliens became jealous. Others became afraid. What if humans became too powerful? What if they challenged the Council's authority? The insect-like representatives were the most vocal. Humans advance too fast, they said in their clicking language. In 2 years, they have matched what takes other species 20. In 10 years, they will surpass us. In 50, they will dominate us. The crystal agreed. Their creativity is dangerous. They do not respect the old ways. They question everything. They will destabilize the order we have maintained for. A secret vote was held. Only the highest council members knew about it. The decision was made with cold calculation. Humanity was declared a threat to galactic stability. Protocol 17 was activated, a protocol that had not been used in 3,000 years. It was designed for one purpose: the complete removal of a species before it could become dangerous. The Council began gathering their fleets in hidden locations. They manufactured evidence that humans had stolen technology and violated territorial boundaries. They created documents showing human aggression that never happened. They prepared a public justification for what they were about to do. On Earth received a strange message from a junior council member, an alien from a species that had remained mostly quiet during meetings. The message was brief: "Get your people out of the colonies. Trust no one. I am sorry." The message deleted itself immediately. Tried to send warnings, but her communications were blocked. She tried to contact Wu, now an admiral commanding the defense fleet, but the channels were dead. She felt ice in her stomach. Something terrible was coming. In the colonies, life continued normally. Ho Li was teaching his sons about the native plants. Wu was having dinner with his alien coworkers. Min Yang was grading papers from her students. None of them knew that above their worlds, warships were emerging from quantum tunnels, weapons charging, targeting systems locking onto the settlements below. The galaxy was about to learn what betrayal truly meant. The sky overturned red without warning. Ho Li was in his garden with his sons when the first explosions lit up the horizon. He looked up and saw them. Dozens of massive ships, dark against the purple sky, raining fire down on the colony. The ground shook. Buildings in the distance collapsed into flames. His wife ran out of their house, screaming for the boys. Ho grabbed his youngest son and ran. All around them, people were running and screaming. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning. Energy beams cut through the sky like angry red lines, hitting homes, hitting people, hitting everything. Ho made it to the communications center. His hands shook as he activated the emergency transmitter. "This is Colony," he shouted into the microphone. "We are under attack. The Council ships are bombing us. They're killing everyone. Please, Earth, please help us." Another explosion rocked the building. The lights went out. Ho heard his sons crying. He heard his wife praying. Then he heard nothing but the roar of plasma fire as the ceiling came down. On Titan's Hope, Wu was deep in the mining tunnels when the alarm started. He ran to the surface and saw armored aliens pouring out of landing ships. They were shock troops, the insect warriors he had worked beside for months. But now they carried weapons and their eyes showed no recognition, no mercy. Wu watched in horror as they moved through the residential sector. They were not taking prisoners. They were executing everyone they found. Men, women, children. His friends, people who had shared meals and told jokes. Now they were being slaughtered like animals. He ran to the evacuation pods. A group of children were there, 17 of them crying for their parents who were not coming. Wu made a choice. He sealed them inside the pod and launched it into space. As he worked the controls, a soldier found him. Wu felt the weapon fire burn through his chest. As he fell, he saw the pod escaping into the darkness. At least some would survive. At least some would tell the story. New Harvest was furthest from the main council territories. Min Yang had a few minutes of warning from the other colonies' distress signals. She gathered her students and ran for the underground shelters. The children were terrified, asking questions she could not answer. Why were the aliens attacking? What had humans done wrong? She got 200 children into the shelter before the atmospheric incinerators activated. Through the shelter's small windows, Min watched the sky turn to fire. The heat was so intense that the very air was burning. The crops outside turned to ash in seconds. The buildings melted. 12,000 people died in the first hour, their bodies vaporized by weapons designed to sterilize entire planets. The shelter's air systems began to fail. The heat was overwhelming. Children passed out from the smoke. Min knew they had two choices: suffocate slowly or surrender to the aliens outside. Some people chose to open the doors and give up. Min watched through the window as the soldiers shot them all. Every single person who surrendered was executed on sight. On Earth, Admiral Wu Park received the distress signals in his office. He listened to Ho Lee's final transmission. He listened to the screams. He listened to the sound of people dying. His hands gripped the edge of his desk so hard the metal bent. He immediately ordered every available ship to the colonies. The defense fleet moved faster than it ever had before, but space is vast and the colonies were far away. It took 3 days to reach the nearest one. 3 days of listening to the transmissions grow weaker and then stop, one by one. When Wu's fleet arrived they found ruins. The once beautiful forests were burning. The settlements were rubble. Bodies lay everywhere. The admiral ordered search and rescue operations, but there was almost no one left to rescue. Of 15,000 colonists, they found 300 survivors. Most were badly injured. It was the same at every colony. Titan's hope was silent except for the 17 children drifting in the escape pod. New harvest shelters had become tombs. World after world showed the same horror. The council had been thorough. 300,000 humans had lived in the colonies. Fewer than 8,000 survived. The council fleet was gone. They had finished their work and left before human reinforcements could arrive. They left only death behind. Was pulled from the ruins of New Harvest 3 days after the attack. She was barely alive. Burns covered most of her body. Her hair was gone. Her hands were twisted from trying to dig through rubble. They found her next to the bodies of her husband and 2 children. She had been trying to reach them when the building collapsed. In the hospital, ship drifted in and out of consciousness. When she was awake, she said the same thing over and over. They smiled while they planned this. They smiled at us. A week after the attacks, the Galactic Council sent an official statement. They claimed humanity had been secretly developing weapons in the colonies. They said humans had violated territory agreements and stolen technology. They called the attacks a necessary correction to prevent human aggression. They demanded Earth's immediate surrender and offered to place humanity under supervised governance. They gave Earth 30 days to comply. Admiral Wu Park gathered Earth's leaders to discuss the ultimatum. The room was full of the most powerful people in human government: presidents, generals, scientists, advisors. They all looked at the council's message on the screen. "What do we do?" someone asked. Wu thought about Ho Lee's last words. He thought about Wu dying to save children. He thought about Min Yang and the 12,000 people burned alive on New Harvest. He thought about his broken body and her whispered words. "We respond," he said. The human response was transmitted on every frequency, in every language the council could understand. It was broadcast to every alien world, every station, every ship. The message was simple, just one word: no. The council members watched the transmission with confusion. Did humans not understand their situation? Did they not grasp that the council controlled the galaxy's military power? Did they not see that resistance was futile? They would understand soon enough, but not in the way they expected. On Earth, something changed. The grief and shock transformed into something cold and hard. Every nation put aside their differences. Every government unified under a single emergency coalition. Every factory, every laboratory, every resource was redirected toward one purpose. The Council had taught humanity a lesson. They thought they were teaching humans their place in the galaxy. They thought they were showing humans that mercy was a privilege granted by the strong to the weak. They were wrong. They had taught humanity something else entirely. They had taught humans that kindness was seen as weakness, that trust was punished with death, that peace was met with slaughter. And humanity was a very fast learner. 6 months had passed since the massacre. Earth looked different now. The cities were darker at night because power was redirected to military factories. The streets were quieter because everyone was working. There were no more arguments about politics or money or borders. Humanity had one goal now, one purpose. Admiral Yang Song stood in the war room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. She was young for an admiral, only 35, but her eyes looked older. Her sister had died burned to ash in the first minutes of the attack. Yang had not cried. She had not broken down. She had simply dedicated every moment since then to planning revenge. Around her, holographic displays showed the Council's territories. 7 hive worlds glowed red on the map. Those would be first. The insects had provided the shock troops that executed colonists on the ground. They had been the ones pulling triggers, killing children who begged for mercy. "Status report," Yang said. Dr. Minhan stepped forward. She was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She had not slept properly in months. "The Cascade drives are ready. All 7 devices are loaded and positioned. The swarms are complete. We've tested them on the samples." The samples were prisoners captured during a raid. Min did not like to think about those tests. The insects had died badly, their hive minds collapsing as the nanomachines ate through their neural tissue. It had taken hours, but it worked. "The antimatter warheads?" Yang asked. "Ready, 200 of them. Each one can crack a planet's crust." "Good, begin the operation." Across human space, ships began to move. They were not like the ships humanity had built before. These were weapons designed for one purpose, killing. They were fast, heavily armed, and painted black. On their hulls were the names of dead colonies. Titan's Hope, New Harvest. The extermination fleet emerged from quantum tunnels above all 7 worlds simultaneously. The insects detected them immediately and began scrambling their defense forces, but they were too slow. Yang watched from her command ship as the swarms deployed. They looked like glittering clouds, beautiful in the way poison can be beautiful. The clouds fell toward the planets, spreading through the atmospheres. Within minutes, they reached the surface. Within an hour, they had penetrated every hive structure on every world. They had no defense. The nanomachines were too small for their weapons to target. The machines slipped through their armor, their skin, directly into their nervous systems. 3 trillion died over the course of 2 hours. The hive minds collapsed one by one. The massive queen minds that coordinated their civilization screamed in frequencies humans could not hear, and then went silent forever. When it was done, the 7 worlds were quiet. Every insect was dead. Every structure was intact but empty. It was like finding ghost ships drifting in space. Yang felt nothing as she watched. No satisfaction, no horror, just a cold certainty that this was necessary. "Target the next species," she ordered. The collective provided the orbital bombardment platforms. They're next. News of the extinction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Council held an emergency meeting. They had expected human resistance. They had not expected this. The complete destruction of an entire species in a matter of hours was something the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. "They cannot do this," the representatives said, their crystalline bodies flickering with agitation. "We must stop them." But how? Human technology had advanced in ways the Council did not understand. The weapons they used were new, terrifying, and humans fought differently than any species the Council had encountered. They did not care about territory or resources. They only wanted death. The Council tried to mount a defense. They positioned their remaining fleets around key worlds. They activated ancient defense systems. They called for unity among member species. It did not matter. Humanity came like a dark wave, unstoppable and merciless. Hoon led the ground forces now. He was one of the survivors from Titan's Hope, a mining engineer who had hidden in a cargo container while aliens executed his family. He had listened to his wife die. He had listened to his daughter scream for him. He had done nothing because there was nothing he could do. Now he could do something. His soldiers wore black armor and carried weapons designed to inflict maximum pain. When they landed on alien worlds, they showed no mercy. Civilians trying to flee were shot. Children hiding in shelters were burned out. Hoon's orders were simple: leave nothing alive. They killed our children while they slept, he told his soldiers before each mission. There are no innocents among them. Everyone who supported the Council, everyone who stayed silent while we were slaughtered, they all bear responsibility. His soldiers believed him. Many of them were survivors too, or had lost family in the colonies. They carried pictures of dead children on their armor. They painted the names of massacred settlements on their weapons. They fought with the fury of the bereaved. The collective tried to negotiate. They sent emissaries to Admiral Yang's flagship, bearing gifts and offers of peace. They promised to punish those responsible for the colony attacks. They offered territory, technology, anything humans wanted. Yang met them in the docking bay. She listened to their offers in silence. When they finished, she drew her sidearm and shot each emissary in the head. Their crystalline bodies shattered into pieces on the floor. She had the execution recorded and broadcast across every channel the galaxy used. With it came a message: "We will not stop until you are extinct or we are. There will be no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy. You taught us that the galaxy only understands one language. We are speaking it now." The galaxy reacted with horror. Species that had nothing to do with the colony massacre began to panic. What if humans came for them next? What if humanity decided everyone was guilty? Some species tried to help the Council. Others tried to stay neutral. A few even sent secret messages to humanity, offering information about Council military positions in exchange for protection. Humanity accepted the information and promised nothing. Dr. Minhan worked day and night creating new weapons. She barely ate. She barely slept. Her laboratory was full of horrors. Viruses designed to target specific alien DNA, chemical weapons that could poison entire atmospheres, kinetic bombs that could crack continents. Sometimes, late at night, she wondered if she had become a monster. She thought about the trillions dying because of her creations. But then she would see the pictures, the burned bodies of colonists, the children executed in their schools. Ho Li's final transmission, screaming for help that never came. She would return to work, designing more efficient ways to kill. The war continued. Month after month, species fell. The Aquatic Hydros Confederation, whose shipyards built the Council's fleet. The Avian Talon Imperium, whose pilots flew the bombing runs. The Fungal Network, whose biological research improved the incinerator weapons. The Silicon Prism Assembly, whose computing networks coordinated the attacks. Each species was erased completely. No colonies left. No survivors, just empty worlds and the echo of billions of screams. The galaxy burned, and humanity held the torch. They had come seeking friendship and found betrayal. Now they would make certain that betrayal was punished in a way the galaxy would never forget. 2 years had passed since the war began. The galaxy was bleeding. 6 of the 14 Council species were extinct. Their worlds were dead rocks floating in space. Their history was dust. Their civilizations were memories that no one wanted to remember. Admiral Yang Song looked at the tactical display in her command center. 8 species remained. 8 more to go. She felt tired, but stopping was not an option. Every night she saw her sister's face. Every night she heard the colonists screaming in those final transmissions. The only way to make it stop was to finish the work. The remaining council species were falling apart. Some tried to break away from the council, declaring their independence and begging humanity for peace. Others tried to form defensive alliances, pooling their remaining military forces. Humanity made no distinctions. Guilty was guilty. The Empire was next on the list. They were a warrior species, tall and strong, with 4 arms and skin like armor. They had provided ground troops for the colony assaults, the ones who went door to door executing civilians. 40 billion of them lived across 20 worlds, concentrated around a massive red giant star. They thought they could win. They were warriors, after all. They had fought wars for thousands of years. They fortified their core worlds, building defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. They gathered their armies and prepared for the human invasion. Captain Park commanded the dreadnought Unforgiven. She was Admiral Wu Park's daughter. Her father had died 2 months ago, ramming his ship into a council dreadnought during the Battle of Ridge. Before he died, he sent her a final message. Finish it. Make them understand. Intended to do exactly that. Her ship carried something new, something Dr. Minhan had been working on for months. The Cascade Drive. It was a device that could destabilize a star's fusion reactions, causing it to collapse and explode. One bomb could destroy an entire solar system. They watched as the Unforgiven approached their star system. They prepared their fleets to intercept. They armed their weapons and locked their targeting systems. They were ready for battle, but did not engage them. Her ship dove straight toward the red giant star at the center of their empire. They tried to stop her, firing everything they had, but the Unforgiven's shields held. The ship plunged into the star's photosphere, the outer layer of burning gas. Inside the star's heat, activated the Cascade Drive and immediately engaged the emergency quantum tunnel drive. The ship disappeared just as the device began its work. For 6 days, nothing seemed to happen. They celebrated, thinking the human weapon had failed. Then the star began to pulse. Its light flickered. Its magnetic fields went wild. Scientists on the worlds realized what was happening and screamed warnings, but it was too late. The red giant went supernova. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from neighboring star systems. Every world was vaporized in seconds. The shockwave expanded outward, destroying everything in the system. 40 billion died instantly. Their bodies turned to plasma before they even knew what was happening. One star system, one weapon, an entire species erased. The news spread through the galaxy. Species that thought themselves safe behind walls of warships now understood that walls meant nothing. Humanity could kill stars themselves. No defense could stop that. Ambassador addressed the galaxy from Earth. Her face was still badly from the burns she received on New Harvest. She wore no makeup to hide the damage. She wanted them to see what their betrayal had done. "You watched while they murdered our families," she said, her voice calm and cold. "You said nothing. You did nothing. Some of you even celebrated, thinking humanity was too weak to matter. You were wrong. When we finish with the guilty, we will remember the silent ones. We will remember who turned away when we needed help." Her words terrified the neutral species. Civilizations that had simply ignored the colony massacres now wondered if they would be next. Some tried to send delegations to Earth, offering apologies and aid. Earth refused to see them. The message was clear. It was too late for apologies. Hoon's ground forces landed on the peaceful world of. There were herbivores, gentle creatures who had never fought a war. But their intelligence networks had provided targeting data to the Council during the colony attacks. They had helped make the genocide efficient. 8 billion lived in scattered settlements across their green world. They did not have an army. They had police for local disputes, but no military. When the human ships arrived, they tried to surrender immediately. They broadcast messages of peace and regret. Hoon ignored them. His soldiers landed and began the systematic extermination of the species. They went city to city, settlement to settlement, farm to farm. It took 6 days to finish. They did not fight back. They simply died, calling out for mercy that never came. Some of Hoon's soldiers became sick from the work. Killing warriors was one thing. Killing civilians who begged and cried was different, but Hoon reminded them why they were there. They helped kill our children. They made it easier for the council to murder our families. No one is innocent. The aquatic learned what was coming. They lived in ocean worlds, deep beneath the waves. They had built the weapons used in the orbital bombardments, the incinerators that burned the atmosphere on New Harvest. They thought their oceans would protect them. Humanity dropped machines into their oceans that drained the water. Massive pumps worked day and night, pulling billions of gallons into space and dispersing it. They watched their oceans disappear. They tried to evacuate to space, but human ships destroyed their craft. Within a week, the oceans were gone. They flopped on the dry, gasping for water that was no longer there. Their civilization had existed for 15,000 years. It ended in 7 days. Dr. Minhan sat in her laboratory, surrounded by her creations, weapons of unimaginable power, tools designed only for death. She had not left this room in weeks. She barely recognized herself in the mirror anymore. Late one night, she went to see Admiral Yang Song. She found the admiral in her office reviewing casualty reports. Trillions dead, species extinct, worlds lifeless. "Are we the monsters now?" Min asked quietly. Yang looked up, her eyes were empty, exhausted. "Does it matter? They made us this way. They showed us that mercy gets you killed, that kindness is weakness. We tried peace. We tried friendship. They responded with genocide. But we're killing billions, entire species, children who had nothing to do with the colony attacks. Their parents did, their governments did, their civilizations did." Yang stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Every child would have grown up to support the hive mind that ordered our extermination. Every child would have been taught that they were right to slaughter us. We are not killing innocents. We are killing future enemies before they can kill us. Min wanted to argue but could not find the words. She returned to her laboratory and continued her work. What else could she do? The galaxy's economy collapsed. Trade routes closed as species feared to travel. Colonies were abandoned. Governments fell into chaos. Species that humanity had not even targeted began to suffer as the infrastructure of civilization broke down. Food stopped moving between worlds. Medicine ran out. Civil wars erupted over dwindling resources. The Council's leadership hid in their fortress world. It was the most defended planet in the galaxy, surrounded by defense platforms and protected by the last remnants of 8 different species militaries. They believed they were safe there. Then the Council's scientists found something. Deep in ancient archives, they discovered records of a weapon from 10,000 years ago, a war machine from a forgotten conflict, an automated fleet of dreadnoughts designed to sterilize entire sectors of space. The fleet had been placed in dimensional storage and forgotten. The Council activated it. 200 ancient dreadnoughts emerged from the void, their weapons still functional despite of storage. The Council programmed them with one target, Earth. If they could destroy humanity's, maybe the war would end. The dreadnoughts began their slow journey toward Earth. They would arrive in 3 weeks. The warning came through every sensor array humanity had. 200 massive ships were moving toward Earth. They were old, ancient even, but their power signatures showed they were still deadly. Analysis suggested they could sterilize the entire solar system. Earth had 3 weeks. Admiral Yang Song called an emergency meeting. Every military commander, every government leader, every scientist gathered in the war room. They looked at the projected path of the ancient fleet. It was moving slowly but steadily. Nothing in its way would stop it. "We need to defend Earth," someone said. "Pull back the extermination fleet. Protect our..." Yang stood at the head of the table. She had not slept in 2 days, her uniform was wrinkled, her hands shook slightly from exhaustion, but her voice was steady. "No, we will not defend Earth." The room exploded in arguments. How could they not defend humanities? How could they just let Earth die? Yang waited for silence. If we pull back our forces, the remaining council species survive. If we defend Earth and they destroy it, they win. But there is another option. She pulled up a map showing the last 8 species' territories. We finish the war before those ships reach Earth. We complete the extermination. Every species that supported the Council dies before our world does. And if we cannot evacuate everyone, someone asked. Then we evacuate who we can. But we do not leave this job half done. If Earth dies, it dies knowing that the entire Council died first. The decision was made. Operation Final Harvest began immediately. Every transport ship in human space was redirected to Earth. Evacuation centers opened in every city. People were told to take only what they could carry. Everything else would be left behind. It was chaos. 10 billion people trying to evacuate in 3 weeks. Families were separated. People fought over spaces on transport ships. Some refused to leave, choosing to stay on Earth no matter what. Others begged for seats that did not exist. While Earth evacuated, the extermination fleet moved faster than ever before. Admiral Yang divided her forces. Each group had a target. Each group had orders to completely destroy their assigned species before the deadline. They were already gone, they were extinct. That left 6 species, 6 more to kill in 3 weeks. Captain Park led the assault on the fortress world where the Council leadership hid. It was supposed to be impenetrable. Thousands of defense platforms surrounded it. The combined militaries of 6 species protected it. Energy shields that could stop any known weapon covered it. Humanity had stopped using known weapons months ago. Fleet arrived and immediately deployed a new creation from Dr. Minhan's laboratory. Phase displacement missiles that could pass through shields by briefly existing in another dimension. Quantum bombs that detonated inside enemy ships rather than outside them. And one special weapon, a device that could collapse the dimensional barriers protecting. The battle was fierce. The Council's forces fought with desperation. They knew this was their last stand. Ships exploded by the hundreds. Defense platforms fired until they melted from overheating. The space around became a graveyard of metal and fire. But humanity kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. The quantum tunnels brought reinforcements faster than the Council could kill them. 18 hours after the battle began, the ship broke through the final defensive line. She deployed the dimensional collapse device. The shields around flickered and died. The planet lay exposed. Hoon's ground forces landed like a dark rain. 10,000 drop ships carrying 100,000 soldiers. They hit the surface and began moving toward the Council's fortress city. The remaining defenders fought street by street, building by building. But they were outmatched and outnumbered. The fortress fell after 3 days of brutal fighting. Hoon personally led the squad that captured the Council chamber. Inside, the 8 remaining Council leaders sat on their thrones, trying to maintain dignity in defeat. "We surrender," the representative said. "We will accept any terms." Hoon looked at them with empty eyes. "There are no terms, there is no surrender." He raised his weapon. "Did you offer our colonists terms? Did you accept their surrender when they begged?" "We were wrong," another Council member said. "We made a terrible mistake, but killing us will not bring your people back." "No," Hoon agreed, "but it will make sure you never do this to anyone else." The Council leaders were brought to Earth for trial. Not a trial to determine guilt, but a trial to broadcast their crimes to the galaxy. Ambassador presided over it. Her face was broadcast across every channel in known space. She read the charges, the 300,000 dead colonists, the children burned alive, the families executed while they slept, the betrayal of trust. the violation of every principle the Council claimed to uphold. The Council leaders tried to defend themselves. They spoke of strategic necessity, of protecting the galactic order, of preventing future conflict. Their words fell flat. The evidence was clear. The recordings from the colonies, the orders they had given, the celebrations they had held when the massacres were successful. "You believed you could kill us and we would simply accept it," said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the galaxy. "You were wrong. Your species, your civilizations, your history, all of it ends today. Not because we are cruel, but because you taught us that the only language the galaxy understands is extinction." The executions were public. Each council leader died knowing their species was dying with them. In orbit, human ships systematically destroyed the last settlements, the last ships, the last refuges of the 8 remaining council species. No mercy was shown. No exceptions were made. Dr. Minhan watched from her laboratory on one of the evacuation transports. She had created one final weapon, something she hoped would never need to be used. A massive bomb designed to create a localized dimensional collapse. It would destroy anything caught in the blast radius, pulling it into subspace where it would cease to exist. She had placed it in orbit around Earth. If the ancient fleet reached the planet, the bomb would detonate. Earth would be damaged, but it would survive. The fleet would not. The dreadnoughts arrived exactly on schedule. They emerged from quantum tunnels at the edge of the solar system. 200 ancient warships, their weapons charging, moving toward Earth with mechanical precision. But Earth's orbit was empty. No defense fleet waited. No brave last stand was being prepared. Just one bomb floating in space, broadcasting a simple message. "You taught us that peace is weakness, that mercy invites attack, that the only way to survive is to be willing to destroy everything. Very well, we learned your lesson." The ancient fleet moved into weapons range. They began to fire on Earth. The bomb detonated. The dimensional collapse was like watching reality tear. A sphere of absolute darkness expanded from the bomb, pulling everything nearby into nothingness. The 200 dreadnoughts had no time to react. One moment they existed. The next they simply did not. The collapse lasted for 3 seconds and then sealed itself. Earth survived. The surface was scorched from the weapons fire that briefly got through, but the planet lived. And humanity was safe, scattered across 1,000 evacuation ships throughout the galaxy. The war was over. 14 council species were extinct. 8 more had collapsed into chaos. Dozens of minor species had fallen during the economic collapse. The galaxy's population had declined by 70%. Worlds that had bustled with life were silent. Trade routes that had existed for were empty. Humanity gathered its forces and returned to Earth. The planet needed repair. Cities needed rebuilding, but the work would be done. 5 years later, humanity stood alone as the dominant power in a quiet galaxy. The new Terran Concordat was established, a government built on a simple principle: aggression against humanity or its allies would be met with absolute annihilation. No exceptions, no second chances. Admiral Yang Song retired. She moved to a small house in the mountains and tried to sleep without seeing the faces of the trillions she had ordered killed. Some nights she succeeded. Most nights she did not. Ambassador continued to serve. She traveled to the surviving species and delivered humanity's new policy. "We came in peace once. We were slaughtered for our kindness. That will never happen again. Any species that wishes our protection will have it. Any species that threatens us will cease to exist. There is no middle ground." Dr. Minhan destroyed all her research. Every weapon design, every formula, every schematic was erased. She spent her remaining years developing terraforming technology, trying to repair some of the damage she had helped create. It was not enough. It would never be enough. The few surviving species that had remained neutral during the war were offered protection under human governance. Most accepted. The alternative was facing the chaos alone. Human ships patrolled the major trade routes. Human laws governed relations. Human courts judged disputes. Some called it an empire. Humanity called it necessity. In schools across human space, children learned about the betrayal war. They learned the names of the dead colonists. They learned about Ho Li's final transmission. They learned about Wu saving the children. They learned about Min Yang and the 12,000 burned on New Harvest. And they learned the final lesson, the one that humanity had taught the galaxy at a cost of trillions of lives. Kindness is not weakness unless you allow others to believe it is. Peace is possible, but only when backed by the absolute certainty of devastating retaliation. "We came in peace," the teachers said. They responded with slaughter. "We taught them what happens when humanity's mercy is mistaken for helplessness. The galaxy will never make that mistake again." The stars stretched endlessly in the darkness of space, quieter now, emptier. Humanity had not wanted to become the galaxy's executioner, but the Council had given them no choice. They had shown humanity that survival required strength, and strength required the willingness to do terrible things. The galaxy had learned its lesson too late. Humanity's reply to betrayal was not surrender. It was total extermination. And in the ashes of 14 extinct civilizations, a new order was born. One where humanity would never again trust the smiles of those who had proven what lay behind them. Never again would humans be the ones begging for mercy. From now on, it would be the galaxy that begged, and humanity would remember the day when their own begging went unanswered.